morning, good morning, good morning. Peace and blessings. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless, back once again. And we covered the story revolving Ryan Hinton, which is the son of uh, Rodney Hinton Jr. Now, Ryan Hinton was the young man, 18 years old, that was in the car, stolen car with three of his friends. And police got tipped off to where they were at, and they got boxed in, and they decided to flee the vehicle, and ultimately, unfortunately, led to the police shooting Ryan Hinton as he was fleeing, allegedly with a weapon in hand. And I gave my thoughts on that in a previous video. I'm not gonna go through that right now, as the case is still, underway. But shortly after that, we learned that his father, the father of Ryan, Rodney Hinton Jr., shortly after going to the police station to view the footage of his son being unalive, crashed out, literally ran into a random officer that was doing a retired deputy that was just doing some extra work on the side. He was a retired officer helping a high school event, directing traffic. And he just saw a random officer and snapped and ran him over with his car, unaliving the officer in response to, just seeing his son being unalive. So I also gave my thoughts on that, but I want to dive deeper off into the thoughts of the father, my thoughts on how the father reacted. And it's just it's mainly not to address that situation. This is mainly to address how the how the public has been responding to this situation. Um, and as the title says, Rodney Hinton Jr. is a grieving father, but he is no hero. You are not a hero because you took the law into your own hands and subsequently unalive somebody that didn't have nothing to do with the situation revolving your child. I'm looking on social media, seeing people with this image of the father in court. Now, when he went to court, all these police officers came to court because he unalived one of their own, and they were mugging him. They were looking at him crazy. I think people tend to dehumanize the police. So when the police were mugging Rodney Hinton Jr. in court, he mugged them right back. He stood, he stood tall, he stood strong. He said, "Yeah, I did it." And I took that as him, I don't take that no type of way other than him saying, "I did what I did." You know, I'm not backing down, and people online are taking that image and they've made a portrait out of it. And now people are talking about, I'm going to put this on a t-shirt. I'm going to put this on my wall at home. I'm going to just paint this. Yeah, like turning this guy into some type of hero. Now, I don't, you know, I don't try to judge nobody. Only God can judge. But what I can tell you is this: shedding innocent blood is not of God, and that is not the move. Because see, when you try to make this dude a hero for what he did, you send off the wrong message in the culture. It's not how you react to things. What would have made more sense, which I could understand more, not to say it would have been right, but what I could have understood more is if he had retaliated against the officer that actually committed the act of unaliving his son. But to target an officer that didn't have nothing to do, wasn't one of the other officers that were in hot pursuit, to target someone that's just helping people, high school kids, and directing traffic get across the street. Now, I know he snapped, so I'm not trying to judge or say that was cowardly, but without his emotions, I would call him a coward for something like that. Because you just sat in front of the man that took your son's life when you viewed this footage. So I'm gonna take and give a man the benefit of the doubt and say he wasn't in his right mind. He snapped, and therefore my defense for him would be temporary insanity. Because you had to be temporary insane to run your car into somebody that didn't have nothing to do with it. And for people to sit here and champion that like he's some type of hero, it's not. It sends the wrong message. I'm giving the man, he needs some mental help. He saw his, I don't know if that's his only child, but he saw his 18-year-old baby. See, I understand because I have a son. I can't say I can relate because I never felt a loss of a child, but I could understand why he snapped. Because I know when my son was born, I was in the room. I was the first one he laid eyes on when he opened his eyes. And from that moment, we were locked in. And you watch this child grow into a young adult. So you have unconditional love from that moment for your child. So no matter how grown your child get, you always remember that moment when y'all locked eyes in the delivery room, and it's like y'all locked in, bro. That's your child. You know what I'm saying? So I understand why he snapped. The love for his son, he didn't care. At that moment when you snap, y'all ever seen, it was a TV show used to be on one of them channels, sci-fi channel. It was called Snapped. And people, we all have our boiling point, our point of no return. Where if you take somebody to that level, I mean, he could have probably already been going through something. He probably was already having a bad day, probably got to it with his boss at work, probably had some words with his wife. He probably was already feeling the way. And to get that news, see, I wish they wouldn't have never showed that man that soon. But to see that, and from my understanding, he hasn't been in any trouble outside of this, and to see that that would push anybody over the edge, especially if they probably already allegedly might be dealing with some stuff. And then, you see that, and then the trauma that comes along with, you know, what I would say is over sensationalized rhetoric and propaganda between black men and police officers. You know, like the media has an option to choose to promote whatever they want to promote. And for some reason, since I could remember before I was born, it's always been like targeted propaganda to create this unhealthy, dehumanizing uh, relationship between black men and the police. And I know growing up, I had my run-ins with law enforcement, so I get it. But as I've gotten older, I started to look at things differently. And knowing who is behind the propaganda machine, see, doing content on this channel has given me a different viewpoint. I know who's behind the propaganda now, and I know why they're behind it. And if you've been following this platform on this journey we've been on over here at Voices for the Voiceless, we know who's behind the curtain, so to speak. We know about the George Soros of the world. We know about all these Democratic funding back these these Democratic propaganda machines like Act Blue, that their mission is to create or sensationalize racial tensions and problems in the home between man and woman. We know their agenda. So we've been uncovering, and that just make you look at, not to say that it's not we know that issue exists between the community and law enforcement. We're not saying that it doesn't. We're saying that the media has put it on steroids, so to speak, for a specific agenda. It's there, but it has been amplified to create a situation like this where I'm you got people to the point of I'm ready to snap. When I see this, we know who behind the curtain. So when you know that, you start to look at it differently. Like, wait a minute, I'm not finna be y'all puppet. I understand the dynamic. I get it. So when you know that, and you know that they want to tie you in, see, that was an emotional response, right? That was a man that was grieving, a father that was grieving his child, and he snapped, just like that television show snapped, when they had all the people that went through these traumatizing situations, and then they just either hurt themselves, hurt somebody else, or all the above. Because had he been in his right mind, he would have targeted if he wanted to get some type of retribution, he would have targeted the officer that actually committed the unalive. So I say all that to say this, man. We need young men we need to be understanding and empathetic, but we should not champion emotionalism. We should not champion unaliving other people just because we're hurt. The police are in people just like you and I. They put their pants on one leg at a time. These are not mystic people. We We got family members that are police officers. So if you take one of theirs, that's like, these police officers get up. They got the most dangerous job in America. They get up in the worst communities because we hard to deal with. But let's be real. The black community, with all the problems we got, as much as we do what we do to, how we treat each other. So to try to protect us from us, we have to have a certain level of respect for law enforcement. And that's what I had to learn. I had to learn that. I had to unlearn the unhealthy propaganda that had been forced upon me. And it wasn't easy to be able to appreciate, because they are bad. They're terrible officers. I remember growing up, it was an officer, Officer Rigoni. I mean, we do their names. That was the ones that was the worst ones, and how they was crooked, and what they, how they shake down the drug dealers and steal their money, and I know you got good ones, but y'all got bad ones, but you got good ones too. But they do have a difficult job. And the humanization, we have dehumanized these people as if they're mystic people. These are regular people. They pump blood just like us. And they have dehumanized us. They look at us as super thugs and things of that nature. But we are not mystic people. We put our pants on one leg at a time too. If you shoot us, we gonna bleed. If we shoot y'all gonna bleed. You know what I'm saying? So what we have to do is get away from the propaganda, bro. Understand that there is a concerted effort to have this, although it does exist, rift between the public and law enforcement, especially in black communities where the crime is high. There are people behind the curtain, so to speak, that use that to create civil unrest as propaganda because they want to create confusion and destruction and division. What Rodney Hinton Jr. did was the actions of a grieving, emotional father. But he is not a hero, because when you make him a hero, it sends, you got millions of people online, right? Championing this behavior, like, yeah, he a real one. Yeah, he did what he supposed to. Yeah, that man need to see a mental health doctor. I'm worried about his mental health. He saw his child unalive and he reacted like that. I hope that they're giving him the help that he needs while he's incarcerated, so he won't harm himself or other people. He's not rap tight. You can clearly look at the footage. When they show him in court, that man ain't thinking about, he's not even here. And then you want to put that on a pedestal, that type of behavior? No. See, if you was going to take that route, you should have sat back, waited to the officer, because you was just with the officer that shot your child. Because they showed the footage. I assume that the officers that was a part of it were there. You got their names, you know what they look like. If you didn't, you should have waited and found out. But not to say that is right, because I think that, if the situation is true, and I didn't want to touch on this, but if the allegations are true that your son was in a stolen vehicle running with a pistol in his hand, that is, you just gave the police a license to shoot you. And police are trained to kill. They are not trained to wound. And you got to know how these people were trained. That's why we have to learn from this situation on all levels, because there's young people watching this. You, when the police have to understand the police, you make sure that your hands are visible at all times. I don't care if it's a traffic stop. I don't play with the police because I already know. So running down the street or evading the police, if with a pistol in your hand while you were just in a stolen vehicle, you're not getting away. There's no reason to fear. Hey, hands in the air. I don't care what y'all think I did. I need to speak to my attorney, hands in the air. We have to teach our youth. If you do get caught up in it, you shouldn't even be in no situation like this. 18 years old. But if you find yourself in a situation like this, hands in the air, I need to speak to my attorney. You got to take your L. Accountability. See, this is a teachable moment for people that are watching this, that are young people. Accountability, man. If you're doing wrong, you got to be held accountable for it. Because I'm pretty sure it was people in that boy's life that was telling him, don't do this, son. Don't hang with this crowd. Don't get caught out there. Because these are the repercussions. Now when we young people, we don't listen. But see, the people that unfortunately it's too late for Ryan, but it ain't too late for the other ones. The worst thing we can do is make excuses for the behavior, because it sends the wrong message to the youth that are paying attention. It sends the wrong message, bro. And it's unfortunate to see on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, people with this picture of this man that obviously needs some mental health evaluation from my vantage point, and to act like this man is a hero when he took an innocent man's life. That officer didn't have nothing to do with what happened. It's unfortunate. I'm praying for the father. I'm praying for the family of the father and Ryan. I'm praying for the family of the officer, because that officer was retired. He was just trying to get some extra bread and do a little overtime. He came out of his house, probably never did anything to nobody, but was a good officer. Just did his job. That man probably got kids, grandkids, a wife, and his life was taken behind something that he had nothing to do with. It's unfortunate, man. We don't celebrate nothing like that. Innocent blood being shed. We don't celebrate that. That's not an eye for an eye. That's an emotional father that crashed out. And as men, especially black men, we don't have the luxury to crash out. We have to be the example of what not to do. Learn from mistakes. But yeah, man, that is not a hero, man. That's a man that's hurting. That's a man that's grieving, that made a grave mistake. I understand. But yeah, it's your boy Jay Taylor. Voices for the voiceless. We love y'all. And until next time, peace and blessings. Talk to you soon.